Hello and welcome to the 13th episode of the Dead Soon podcast. Today I have my dad here, and I'm going to let him introduce himself, whatever he wants to say to his little introduction.
I am Rob McCormick. I am 60 years old, retired for 5 years, was a union carpenter for 30 years. Now I'm here, sit with Trevor.
Yep, perfect. And so just starting off, how does it feel to be on a podcast, and have you been interviewed before, or is this maybe not in this formal of a context?
Not like this. I guess the only interviews would have been, job interview or anything like that. Yeah, I've worked in so many different jobs that I'm sure I got interviewed a few times.
Yeah. So my first section, I have some icebreaker questions, and they're gonna be random, ranging from a lot of things. So my first little thing is, so you're born in 1964. I'm gonna walk you through each president that served in your younger years, and I want you to tell me the first thing that pops into your head with each of these.
Okay.
All right. The first one I have is Lyndon Johnson.
LBJ, I believe.
Yep.
Don't know too much about him.
This was when you were 4, so it is fair.
Right, and even just probably learned about him in school, but I just know LBJ.
All right, that's good enough. All right, next one, probably easy. Richard Nixon.
Watergate.
Yep.
Don't know huge amount, or I am not a crook. You know that one.
Yep.
So I know snippets about people. You know what I mean?
All right, next, Ford. Gerald Ford.
Gerald Ford. He was clumsy. I remember hearing that. I believe he was a good golfer also. Don't know much about his political views or how he did, but this was, of course, before the internet, so anything you would have known, you would have seen in a newspaper.
Yeah, I feel like it was much easier to cover things up.
Right, definitely.
All right, next, Jimmy Carter, who just died.
Yeah, he just died. When I was younger, of course, when I was around 10, 11, we went on vacation to Virginia, and we met a gentleman named Gus Carter. So I'm like, I wondered if he was related.
Could have been.
And there was a story about that, and if we ever we could talk about that later.
Okay. All right, next, Reagan.
Reagan. Great actor. He got shot.
Yep.
Politics, I don't, I'm not a big politics guy, but I guess the biggest thing is that he was an actor.
Yeah.
That was
definitely a unique part of him.
Yes.
Next, I have George H.W. Bush, so George Bush the father.
What years you have that?
Ooh, I think late 80s.
All right, so late 80s. I don't remember too much. I was still young, so I was 18 to 20 in that range. 18 to 24 was the 80s for me. So I was in the height of drinking and
weren't really paying attention to
to
George Bush.
Nah.
He wasn't a very exciting guy either, I don't think, so there probably wasn't much to know. I don't really know much about him either. We didn't really, even in my class, we didn't really cover him very much. Next, Bill Clinton.
Oh, Bill Clinton. Yeah, too much about him. Little snippet is when he lived in Chappaqua, right here in New York, in Westchester. A couple of the guys I worked with had met him, so that was pretty cool. I never did, but
I heard one of my professor mentioned that I think our old president of my school like had met him and would like raved about how like just when he's in a room, there's just like an aura about him.
Right.
I feel like that's with a lot of like presidents and politicians. It's just like you can see and feel them in the room.
Right.
And then I'm gonna end with George Bush. So go ahead if you remember anything.
Same, just knew that, his dad was president, and then I think it was his brother was Jeb as the governor of Florida, and so I just knew that about their family history a little bit, and that I think they were in the oil business before.
I think so.
That was also so that's things I know about them.
Okay. I'm gonna end there. Just because I was going for like older ones. What's the biggest change in the country that you've noticed over your life? Speaking on like politics, it doesn't have to be specifically politics, but just like the country as a whole, like the vibe of the country.
Everybody seems very scared now. I don't know, especially with the new administration coming in. Just very nervous about what they're saying and what they're doing, and
there's a lot of uncertainty.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
With the internet, it just changed everything. I mean, there's just so much information. The 24-hour news cycle. We would get the newspaper in the morning, and maybe you would listen to the radio, and you would hear maybe what happened, or you would see the front of the newspaper, and that's how you would get your news.
What did when you're talking about like the fear, like what did fear like feel like back when you were like younger? Like if you're thinking like maybe like Cold War or like just like more like big conflicts, like did it feel different than it did now? Because it feels like maybe now it feels a lot more like we're less united. And it's more like there's the scary things and we have like different sides within our country. And it feels like maybe back, like, I don't know, but maybe back in that like Cold War era, it was kind of just like us versus them. And it was like USA.
Well, as a kid, I didn't think about that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't even think I thought about it at your age. I was just trying to work, put enough money in my pocket so I could, buy a car or, have fun. I didn't worry about
So it didn't feel
world.
as consuming.
No, nowadays you worry about it because you know more.
Yeah.
And because when I was younger, the information wasn't really out there. You didn't know everything that was going on. Now I know everything that's going on. I know what color, underwear the guy's wearing.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
And also maybe now, like back when you were like in your 20s, there was less on the line too, if that makes sense. Like there was just less worry in general. Like
right,
you didn't have a family.
Yeah. Right, I never knew if I was gonna get married or have children. Now I have to worry about my wife, my kids. My brothers and sisters and their kids.
Yeah,
it's just it's huge
expanded. And
huge
now that you
family.
know so much more of what's going on, it does feel a little bit scarier.
Definitely.
So my next one. So to me, one of your like defining personality features is kindness. Do you think that you've kind of always been this way, or did you have someone or something like shape this part of you? Because I mean, you're someone that I like is always looking to like help a stranger, and like I feel like that's something that isn't extremely common. It could be a generational thing, but I do feel like you tend to be more kind and more helpful to just regular people.
I feel like my dad was similar to me. And growing up, I went to Catholic school. I feel like part of that, we were taught a lot of morals and all that. And service, that's what I think of it as service for me, doing service for others. That is when anybody that knows me would talk about it, they would say, you know, I did service. I mean, that makes me feel good. It fills my heart.
It's what you want to be known for, kind of.
Sure,
Like, it's a part
definitely.
of, like, you want to leave an impression of, like, he was helpful, not like he didn't do anything for me, you know?
Right. Definitely.
And then my last of the kind of icebreaker things, if you could relive any single day of your life, what would it be? This might be hard because
Yeah, I
there
mean,
could be a lot of options. But
sure. Probably the day my dad died. I mean, that was horrible. And of course, I would wish it didn't happen.
yeah, but you're saying kind of
Right,
like
just
to be able to
in
see him the
general,
last time.
right. I didn't spend a lot of time with him that day. He had been in the hospital, and he came home from the hospital, was recovering from a surgery, and he died that day. So
Mm-hmm.
just to, I'm going to be a little, not jealous, what was I trying to say? Like, I would wish that year was, I put more time into spending with him because, there was just so much missed.
Yeah, and it's so hard because obviously, like, you have no idea, so you're consumed
Exactly.
in your own life, and then so you don't think of like that.
Right. I mean, I was lucky enough that I was sober for 6 months before he died, and that's changed everything. So
Mm-hmm.
I wish that was longer.
Yeah. And then moving into kind of like my first, like, I have like little categories kind of. So my first one is kind of like early life / career. So like for you, how, I know you don't, I mean, you might not have the best memory with some of the stuff if we're going all the way back, but like, how was school for you growing up? Like, did you enjoy school? Did you hate school? Like, what was your experience?
All right. School was difficult for me. Back, I keep going like back in the old days.
Mm-hmm.
When I was growing up, ADHD, learning disabilities weren't big. It wasn't a focal point of school. And I believe I suffered from all of that. So school was tough. I truly did not read a book
Mm-hmm.
because I would get lost. I had trouble just knowing what I was reading, comprehending it. So I don't know if you had any of the black and yellow books. It was like a condensed version of a book.
Okay.
So it was. We'll have to look it up, and we'll have to find that.
Like it was like a summary of the book that you would just
exactly,
use?
but it was right, so that I could actually do my work.
Yeah.
I actually did okay. I mean, considering, and I got through up until 9th grade. I did okay. Then I went into 10th grade. 9th grade I went to an all-boys Catholic high school. And all of my friends, and I was commuting a half hour, which was no fun. Except I got to spend some time with my dad when he would drive me, so that was nice. Once in a while. Then in 10th grade, I transferred to a co-ed school, and where all my friends were, that I went to grammar school with, which was also Catholic grammar school. A lot of Catholic stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I fell right apart. I ended up like failing like 5 classes. I mean, how many classes do you take in school? 8?
Yeah.
So it wasn't good. So I just really struggled, and I wish I would have gotten some help with that stuff. But it just wasn't available.
Yeah, it wasn't like socially acceptable to be like, I am not learning.
Exactly. I think my parents thought he's doing fine. He seems like he's doing fine. But
yeah, because also you probably just didn't want to say that you
yeah,
were struggling.
couldn't say I needed help.
Yeah. And could you move the mic like slightly closer just so
Sure.
it picks
Sorry.
up? Oh, no problem. Did you, when you were like a kid and when you were that age, like, did you have like a dream of like what you wanted to be, or was it very just like, I need to get through this?
No general dreams, but I did enjoy drawing like houses and stuff. So it's pretty funny that I did get into construction when that wasn't really on the radar. I used to love building erector sets, things like that, like Legos. How you guys did Legos, I did an erector set, which nuts and bolts and. But I never like. I could have taken carpentry in school, but I never did. I don't know why, because it really wasn't something our family did. Everybody worked in the business world. You know, my dad was an insurance salesman. My mom was a nurse. Uncle Jim worked for Corning, and I'm sure he did a bunch of other things. But everybody really worked in the business world, not the trades.
Yeah, less blue collar.
Right.
And this is probably a bigger section. But I did have you like prepare a little bit for this. But like, if you could kind of walk through your career and jobs path, like if you could even walk me through in order. Yeah.
Okay. So I always liked making money. I mean, even before I had real jobs, I did do some like cutting lawns, very little because I have asthma and I would react to it. You know what I mean? I would have an asthma attack. But I did help my cousin. I'm going to put air quotes up. Cousin Guy. He cut lawns, so I would help once in a while. And he also had a paper route. I helped him a couple times. Then when we moved, we lived on Long Island. I'm just going to go through I grew up on Long Island until 6th grade. Then we moved to Westchester in Somers from 6th grade to 12th grade. And then Katona. Anyway, so my first real job was Healy's Deli in Katona. I think it was 1981, 82. I actually printed up how much I made every year from 1980, which I guess, and that's my first job.
Oh wow!
Until I retired. Actually, it goes till last year because I have been working again. Excuse me. So first I worked at Healy's, and I did that for years. I couldn't even tell you how many. I think I did it for 5 years in a row. Then I got a couple of extra side jobs. On top of that, I worked at a couple of restaurants. My cousin Guy also, he bought a restaurant, so I worked there. Then I worked at a few bars in the area. The big jobs I had then. Oh wait, then here we go. When I was 18, my dad's friend, John Toman, was vice president of Grolier International in White Plains. And I got a job in the accounting office. An 18-year-old kid, you know, it was a job. So it was actually a pretty good job because I met a lot of good people. And the drinking age was 18, so I could go out with the people and we could have a good time. Then it got moved up to actually right here in Danbury, right around the corner from here. It's not far over near the Amazon warehouse over there. And then as I was doing that, I still had a lot of side jobs. I was working 7 days a week sometimes just to make money and to have a nice car. I'm trying to think of, See, that's where I run into problems because I worked with so many different jobs at once.
Yeah.
I don't remember
Yeah, I mean, you
every
can
one of
kind
them.
of just like hit the big ones because I
Right.
know like
Sure.
you,
And
I
then
I
we
think
were
you
we were
mentioned.
just together the other day, and I saw a truck, and it was the place called Atlantic Westchester. And I'm like, I used to work for them 30.
Hmm.
It would have been 37, 38 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just funny. Then from there, continuing to work second and third jobs all the time. I did catering, a couple different restaurants, and then one day while I was working at Healy's Deli, my sponsor in AA, who was one of my dad's good friends, um, came in and he said, "Do you want to get in the union?" I'm like, "Sure, full time job, yeah, I'm in." So he was able to get me into the New York City District Council of Carpenters, um, local 608. Don't be late. They were all Irish. And so he was able to get me in. And that May, I think the only reason I also printed up some more information. I printed up all the hours I ever worked in the union. And
That's so insane that you can like
I
have
know, it's so
access to
cool.
that. It's so cool.
All the way back to, I guess it was probably my first week. I think it was May of 1990. Yep, May 25th, 1990 was the first. I think it was monthly. They would give you this report. So very cool. And then I worked in the union for 30 years. I think there was like probably 20 different companies I worked for. But I did work for one company pretty steady for 20, 25 years, AFD nationwide, which
Hmm.
was pretty cool. And I got to put together office furniture exactly like an erector set.
Hmm. It
It's
came
just
full circle.
hilarious. It's just great.
And then so during your like kind of years as a carpenter and like during kind of when we were younger and what was can you explain your schedule that you had because this is like the craziest part to me of all like how you were managing to survive on the schedule that you were operating on. So you can start from like a an average day, but you can like
Sure.
kind of from
On
beginning to end.
average, my day started like 4:30, 5 o'clock. I got up and headed down to Manhattan, which I drove 90% of the time. And I would get there, around 6, and I would pull over somewhere, anywhere, take a nap for a half hour, 45
Hmm.
minutes. Then I would go to my office and get my paperwork for the day. And then, not every day, but a lot of days, I would just walk around Manhattan with my tools, going to different businesses all over Manhattan, and fixing their furniture, putting together something that they just bought, or fixing something that that broke. And that was my favorite part, was doing those kind of jobs. When I had to go to a job and be on a job for 3 weeks, I didn't like it. I
Hmm.
liked bouncing around.
And getting to see different offices
Yeah,
and
I
stuff and
got to see so many cool places. We worked at the NHL. We worked at Major League Baseball. We worked at some of the most beautiful buildings. I got to look over St. Patrick's Cathedral and just see how just the building, the architecture, which I've always loved, that I always
hmm.
drew. So it's just always been. It was a great job. I enjoyed it. I mean, the driving. I
Yeah,
guess I
because
enjoyed parts of it. Yeah.
how long was the drive
So it's
usually?
about when we lived in New Fairfield, it was 70 miles from home to work each way. So 70 miles each way. So anywhere from, that's an hour and a half 1 hour and 15 would be the shortest, probably, to about 3 hours on a Friday. The worst one was there was a snowstorm, and I had to drive. I was driving home from Newark, and I think it took me 6 hours.
Oh,
That was horrible. It was snowing. There were accidents everywhere. It just, I mean,
and even when the weather was bad, like you had to
you had
to go
you
to
don't
work.
go in, you don't get paid,
Yeah.
basically. So it's not. I got used to driving in the snow. I mean, I've had my share of accidents over the years, but you just learn. You learn how to do it. Yeah, it was a lot of miles. We went through a lot of cars. I don't think if we had to name all the cars, we'd have a problem because
Yeah.
I don't think it could.
And then like what by the end of the day, like what time would you be getting out of work? I know it was a little bit of a range, but then
Right.
like what time would you be getting out of work? What time would you be usually getting home?
So usually our day was like 7:30 to 2:30. And if it was we were lucky enough, we were able to sometimes work through lunch, and we were able to leave. So I would get home. My goal every day was just to get home.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had nights where it was midnight and I still hadn't left because we were doing a delivery or we had to finish a job. A couple times I actually ended up sleeping at a job because it was too late
Yeah.
to get home. You do what you got to do, and it was hard. It had its ups and downs, and I hate that I missed a lot of stuff you guys did.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I am glad that I had a lot of times where I could see everything. I mean, a lot of weekends I did get to go to your games. I was lucky enough for that to happen.
Yeah, I mean it's that's one of like that's the thing that like I will not like brag about you, but it's like that's the thing that I think is so like admirable and insane is like that you were able to do that for like 25, 30 years. Like that is crazy.
Right.
Like that the fact that you were kind of just like clocking into work and you didn't even know when you would get home, you didn't know what you had to do. Like it's just crazy, and it's definitely like I'm glad I'm highlighting that because it's like it's it's crazy. Like it's a lot, and it's very like the sacrifice is crazy, and it's very like admirable, and it's like the thing that I'm like this is crazy, and this is so awesome, and it's like
A lot of construction workers do what I did, and because they're taking care of their families, and that's what I hope that our future generations do too. I mean, it's important.
mm-hmm. It's a great message to end that off with. If you could, this was more of a quick fire one, but like if you could go back to any job of like all like not just like your carpentry jobs, but any job you ever had, for like just like a day and re-experience it,
Right.
what would that be?
I always had fun at the deli, dealing with people. Usually, it was a lot of fun. And then at the end of the day, not all the time, but toward the end, when I was older, in my 20s, Uncle Brian, I used to call him and tell him to come down, and I would make him something to eat, and he would help me. And that was cool just to spend time with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he grew up, he actually ended up working there for a couple of years, which was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
That was a fun job. The other fun, I did catering on a yacht, and that was pretty cool.
That is very cool.
It was different, and when they would take the boat down to Manhattan with nobody else on the boat, just the crew and the people that were working. We would get to see all Manhattan from the river, which was pretty cool.
That is very cool. I didn't remember that.
Yeah,
the
that
yacht
was
part. That's cool.
my cousin guy's business, one of his business.
And then transitioning. So now you're retired. So I'm sure that was just such an adjustment. Like how different it feels after you were working and commuting. Like your work plus commute was kind of basically taking up like 90% of your waking hours.
Yeah.
So like, what's been the biggest adjustment, and like what was it first like, and what is it like having so much extra time? Because I feel like a lot of people, like a lot of men that are like working that like blue collar life and like with that similar commute, spend so much like time and energy on their careers, and it's like you retire and you're like, what? Like I didn't have like,
Right.
it's like the idea of like you had all that like mental space was just like you didn't have the opportunity to think a lot of the time. So like you kind of just went from not being able to think to having so much time. Like, so what
Right.
was that? What is that like?
So I've been lucky enough to be retired for, I can't believe it's 5 years already. Right when COVID was in the top in 2020, and if I wasn't able to retire, it would have been really hard because there would have been no money coming in. You don't work, you don't get paid. But I think for the first year and a half or so, I tried to just bring it down. You know what I mean? Just relax. And I mean, we ended up having a lot going on. We ended up selling the house in the summer of 2020, and there was a lot going on. So then we ended up, we moved to the lake for that year. Well, that was only ended up only being 10 months. And I had my little shed out on the back, my he shed. And I used to enjoy my time there. I used to drive around to go to all the grocery stores and visit my cows.
Mm-hmm.
So I have cows. But now that I am working again, I'm working for the last, it's actually been 3 years already. Been working about 20 hours a week at Petafix, and it's nice to fill my time. I'm involved with OA and AA, and those keep me busy too. So I still have to keep busy because I think I would go crazy if I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how Mom, I mean, she does a lot of things, but to stay home the whole time
Yeah.
and not leave
Like
the house.
you even when you have the downtime, you
I
need
like
to
to
do
go out.
like
I'll just,
go explore. Like you'll be
right,
just like you said, you'll drive to go see those cows. Like that's
yep,
like just going and driving. Because also like a 20-minute drive to you is like a 5-minute walk. Like in
right,
comparison to all
right,
the driving that you've done.
definitely.
Yeah, and then so next kind of topic. This is tying into what we were just talking about, but like that whole like the concept of sacrifice, I think is important, and I think it's uh, that very admirable thing about you because like that selflessness. So you obviously sacrifice so much for me and Robbie and for our family with these long hours and commuting. Like, what kept you motivated, and like every time that like 4:30 whatever alarm would go off, like what goes off in your head that keeps you motivated? Like,
What time am I going to get home today? That was my goal every day, was just to get home. I didn't know if I had to get on the subway and somebody was going to shove me off the subway. You know what I mean? You don't know. So
mm-hmm.
my goal every day was to leave.
So very very day by day.
That's it.
I guess
One day at a time.
it's the best day to survive it. It's like
When you have
you're
to do, when my whole day, some were similar, some were not, but it was always just to get home. That was it. I just wanted to make money and get home.
yeah, as little as time as possible at the work and getting
Exactly.
home as
But I also got paid by the hour, so I mean, typically, unless we were working on a job and when we finished, they would pay us for the day, which was awesome. Not everybody got that, but I
so
was
it
getting
wouldn't be
paid by
getting
the
a,
hours.
so it wouldn't be getting like a you're saying it like you're not getting paid every 2 weeks, you're getting paid some jobs it would be like you're getting paid for that day.
No. When I worked for AFD. I'll just go with that one because I worked for them for the longest. If we finished a job in 5 hours, I got paid for 7.
Okay.
But if we worked over 7 hours, then I got paid overtime.
Okay.
But my goal was always just to get home.
Yeah.
which I still do when I'm working 20 minutes away, and which is so great to be so
Yeah.
close. That was what it took for me to get from North Salem to the highway before is how long it takes me to commute to work now. So yeah, just my goal, just get home. That's it.
Yeah. It is crazy. Like I keep saying it, but like it is it's a crazy concept just to me because it's like I experienced the tiniest little bit of like having that like having a long commute, and mine wasn't even like a manual labor job. It was just like long commute. I know exactly what my day is gonna be, and I know exactly when I'm gonna get home, and it was still so consuming. Like it was
Yeah.
so hard to survive. Like it's just like you feel like you're kind of burning the candle at both ends, and it's like for you, I know a lot of the time it would be like, because like if you're just thinking like the amount of hours of sleep you're getting most nights, like it wasn't like how many hours of sleep would you be typically getting? Because
Yeah.
I felt like you would a lot of time have to like you'd have to catch up on the weekend and you'd
Definitely.
have to recover a lot.
I know it doesn't work like that, but that's how
Yeah.
I used to do it. I tried to get as much as I could. I don't. Some guys would go to bed at like 8. I could never go to bed that early. So maybe 9, 10, between 9 and 10, and getting up at 4:30. So I'm still getting what,
Like
7?
Yeah,
Yeah,
still
about
like
7
7 hours depending on how
And that's
good
why
your
I
sleep is.
took a nap,
Yep.
and then I took a nap at lunch typically. But I didn't know for the last probably 10 years of my work career is that my heart was really why I was that tired. It wasn't just the work. It was also my physical condition.
Mhm. Not the best job for a 50-year-old with a heart condition.
Exactly.
Very like with the manual labor, with the lifting, with the just so much going on.
Yeah.
Definitely was like taxing you over time, and even like if you had like one bad night of sleep, like it would probably be even like it would be even more brutal. Like it
Definitely.
would be bad. Um, this one maybe I don't know if this will be a hard question, but like kind of looking back at all of this, is there anything that you wish you'd done differently? Are there any like major regrets?
I know regrets aren't going to get me anywhere, so I don't. I was lucky enough, I think, to have a job I really liked. I mean, there were ups and downs with every job, but not everybody goes to work and actually enjoys what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could say anything to anybody who's listening out there that's young and just starting, try to get something you enjoy, because work will be a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I wished that it was worked closer to home, because a short commute would have saved me a lot of time and grief.
Yeah, because just like the time kind of
Right, there's nothing I
adds
can do
up,
with that
yeah.
time. That time's just sitting in
Especially
the car.
because you're driving. Like
Right.
for me at least, like when I was doing it, I was able like I was just on the train,
Right.
so I could read, I could watch a movie, I could sleep.
I could have taken the train, but I was carrying my tools everywhere, so
Yeah.
they were like between 50 and 100 pounds. And with a car, I could drive very close to a job and then walk to it with it,
And also like taking the tools on the subway, taking on the train, you'd feel like
that was my worst. That when I had to do the subway with the tools,
yeah.
it was no fun.
And then just kind of wrapping up that section, like to you, what does the word sacrifice mean to you? Like what is it? Because I feel like it's a big part of all of this. Like we're sacrificing your time and working so hard for us and for our family and to keep the family like supported. It's
right. You guys were all worth it. I mean, I'm glad I did it. I would do it again because I want all of you to. Because service is my thing.
Mm-hmm.
I want you guys all to be, taken care of. I wish sometimes I would have of course, put more money or put money away.
Mm-hmm.
But at time, I did have money put away, and we were able to use it to, put some stuff into the house or whatever. So it just the sacrifice was worth it because I'm seeing that you and Robbie are doing well, and Mom is happy, and I get to spend time now. I get to spend a lot of time with you guys, and it's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that was just used, like, that's powerful what you're saying. Like, that's real. That's what sacrifice is. Like, you're someone that is like, you have the right to define the word. Like, it's because you've done it and you've sacrificed so much. So obviously we all appreciate you so much, and
thanks.
it's amazing what you've done. And it's like, when I'm thinking of, like, when anybody, like, talks about, like, someone being determined or someone hardworking, like, to me, I always will be like, oh, like, no one compares to you. Like, you are the top of the top for me. It's like, when I think of hard work, I'm like, you've done it. You are the example of hard work for me. So
Thanks.
that's definitely, you're like the model. Like, it's what every dad wants to be. It's like, you showed us that, like, you can sacrifice and you can work hard and you can survive and you can come home and you can, like, you were never like I feel like a lot of, like dads will be like, they'll come home from a rough day of work, and, like, to me, I never felt like you were, like, mean, or, like, you were never, like, in a bad mood. Like, you were at least able to put on, even if you were probably feeling terrible sometimes, you were able to kind of put on a face of, like, I need to be
I
good
was
for,
happy I was home.
yeah.
That's was my goal. Like I said, if I made my goal to get home to see everybody and to spend time with you, and that's means I achieved it every day.
Mm-hmm. So my next kind of category, I'm just have it as, like, health. I guess that's the best way to put it. Just wrap
Sure.
that all together. So you've been through some serious health challenges, like your heart attack. How do these experiences change the way you approach life?
Well,
Because obviously,
it's been a long
experiencing
road
that,
with the heart stuff.
I guess you could also maybe give a little bit of context, just
Okay,
like,
sure. No, I'm
it,
gonna.
it can be quick, just hitting the main points. But
So, trying to think of the years I'm not always great with, but it has to be 35. No, almost 40 years ago. I was diagnosed with WPW, Wilt Parkinson White syndrome, which was basically an extra nerve on my heart, which caused my heart to race. And over the next 5 to 7 years after I was diagnosed, I had, I believe, 5 surgeries. There were laser and ablation, which was they tried to put a laser in my heart from a catheter and try to zap the extra wire. I call it an extra wire, the extra thing that was causing
mm-hmm.
it. And they tried it each time. Once was just to look at it, and then the last time they finally got it. I had to go to Boston. I had to go to Westchester. We
Mm-hmm.
were all over the place. And then when that was taken care of, I went in to see the cardiologist again, and he was giving me a checkup. And they found something else.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they found the dilated cardiomyopathy, which is basically a weakened heart muscle. And I think it was like a year or two after that, they implanted a pacemaker.
Mm-hmm.
And that was
Isn't that 10 years ago
interesting.
now?
Yeah, it is. Wow, it's crazy. 2005. I have a little card in my wallet. That's the only reason I remember the dates. It's just saying that I have one kind of thing. And 5 years after that was when I was able to retire, and then they were seeing my physical. I could feel it. I wasn't as strong as I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't able to work as long. I wasn't able to do a lot of things. So now I'm actually doing pretty good. I've been on medication for 10 years, and it's called injection fraction. My injection fraction was in the low 30s, and it has gone up over the years, which is good. I can still feel it though if I overdo it.
Mm-hmm.
Like walking up and down the stairs sometimes. After I do it a few times, I'm like, yeah, I can't do it
Mm-hmm.
anymore. And that's frustrating. It's a very frustrating to not feel as strong as I used to. When I used to unload trailers of furniture with guys all day, all night, and just keep going. Now that I can't even, if I lift a couple of boxes, I'm done. I'm shot. So.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like you said. That's a frustrating thing because also like you were kind of like that was a part of you. You were strong. But I mean, it's obviously great that you were able to retire. And obviously, maybe it would have been better a couple years before. But like in hindsight, like especially with COVID, the timing was good, and you were able to take a step back from that and not have to be lifting hundreds of pounds of furniture every day.
Definitely.
But if I'm talking like more into like the heart attacks, like how did those impact you?
Well,
Because I don't remember the year.
Yeah, 2019, I think I don't know that it was a specific heart attack, but whatever, was when I passed out in front of you and Mom.
Mm-hmm.
And that really, I know, affected you guys a ton.
Mm-hmm.
And it scared me, but I don't think I'm as scared. I was as scared as I probably should have been. You know what I mean? I should have been more scared.
You were probably trying to brush off and be like, it's not that big a deal.
Right.
Because I even remember like when you like came to, I was calling the police and you were like, no, don't call an ambulance. Like you were like, no, don't. And I was like, I'm calling an ambulance. Like this isn't like, oh, Dad like tripped. Like this is like you need an ambulance. And I know it's probably just like a I don't know if it's like not like a generational thing, but it's like you don't want to ask for help. Like it's not nobody likes asking for help.
Right. I don't want to seem weak.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that ties into the frustration with the strength stuff and like it's just like a part of like I mean you're like just getting older and especially when you're dealing with a heart condition on top of that.
Right.
And then talking into that, I'm gonna stay in this kind of topic, but so as far as I know, you're like the oldest living male in your family in at least a couple generations, I believe.
Of the McCormicks, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know Uncle Jim is...
Right, he would be my mom's side.
Yeah.
So, on my dad's side, his dad died at 42 on the subway in Manhattan.
And was that was a heart attack?
Heart attack. Okay. And then my dad died at 49 of a heart attack after his double hip replacement. It was actually the day he got home from the hospital from that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it is. Truthfully, I never thought I would still be here because of that.
Yeah,
you know?
It's not a very like
it's
I
not
don't
like
even
you
know
have
things going
further
for
back.
You,
I don't know
that like you were
right.
It's scary because you were like a lot of people are kind of just like they're like, oh, like if I'll live till 75, 85, like where for you were kind of like if I make it to 50, it's huge.
Right.
Which is like
Definitely.
just it's a crazy thing because it's also tying back into the work thing, like you were kind of just working and not expecting to even ever enjoy retirement, which is also just
definitely
a crazy concept in itself. Like you were kind of just like, oh, I'll just work until I die, which is why it's amazing that you were able to retire because you've gotten to enjoy retirement, it's crazy to think, but you kind of didn't even know that you would experience retirement.
That's true.
Like how does that shape your outlook on life now? Like,
One day at a time. I still have to go one day at a time. I mean,
yeah, I mean that it's the best way to live. It's
I think so.
a lot of my like I've been like trying to work on just like the idea of being present, like not letting the future like stress me out, because I'm like, it doesn't, like, the future isn't guaranteed. It's literally like the core concept of this podcast. It's like that, like, you kind of need to live and just be like, live in the moment, like I'm here now, and I don't know if I'll be here tomorrow, but kind of it's important because
Make
it's like
the best of it.
yeah, not getting like when I'm in a bad mood, I'm like, not that like I'm allowed to be in a bad mood sometimes, but I'm like, is this really how I want to spend my day? Like I need to sometimes just kind of like kickstart myself and be like,
Right.
this is gonna be a day that I'd look back and be like, why was I upset? Like if it's obviously, if there's a reason to be upset, then there can be a reason. But then my last part of like that health thing. So what's your journey with alcohol addiction in the way of like, what did it kind of look like from the first time that you drank to the last time that you drank?
So I don't know exactly dates and like same thing, but around between 12 and 14 was my first drinking. Friends, we would steal alcohol basically from our parents and meet up somewhere. Then I had a friend who was a few years older than I, and we worked together at the deli, and he would take me out to drink. Now, when I was just started drinking, the drinking age was only 18, so I had an ID at 17, 16, 17, and I was, tall for my age, tall. So I sort of got away with it. I actually was at a bar once, and it got raided by the cops, and I just stood there, and they never asked me a question. It was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then go through all addictions? Is that what you're...
I mean, if you want, it's whatever
Sure.
you're
Then
comfortable with.
With drinking itself, I stopped at 24 and went into rehab, which was the Renaissance Project, it was called, and it was 3 days a week for like an hour and a half a night, and they really changed my life. I wouldn't be here today if I didn't do that. And then from there I went to AA. Now with drugs, I was about 18 when I tried cocaine. And because of I have a very addictive personality, and it really changed the way I felt. It made me happy, and
I feel like you've also talked about like a part of it is like you were very kind of shy and reserved, and it kind of turned you into the opposite. Like I know a lot of people like with alcohol, it's like, oh, I need to have a drink to feel comfortable in this social setting.
Definitely did change who I was. And I was a little bit more popular when I was drinking, and I thought, and drugging. There was definitely a different person. And then, I mean, I just can look at myself now, and when I'm at a wedding and I'm having a ball, everybody thinks I'm drunk, but I'm not. I'm just having a good time. I enjoy drinking. I did enjoy drinking. I enjoyed dancing and just having a good time. So, but the drugs and alcohol, maybe people would say, "Oh, would you change? Would you have still done it?" Probably. You know what I mean? There was some good things, right? I mean, I am so lucky that I never got a DWI. I never killed anyone. You know what I mean? All these things that could have happened during, I never got arrested. And I was just very lucky with that. I was lucky God had a plan for me, I guess. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and now I try to do service in my meetings. You know, when I go to an AA meeting, I try to help out. When I go to an OA meeting, which is about food, which is another addiction I have, I try to be the best Rob I can be to be service to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge part of my day, being service
Yeah, I mean,
to
it's a
others.
part of your
I still
schedule.
do it. I still do it, and it helps me.
If I know you're kind of talking about like, I feel like for some people it's like they'll have an addiction and it's like there's that moment. Like for some people it is a DWI. Some people it is killing someone. Like it's like, what kind of kicked you into like being like, I need to stop?
Luckily, my friends, I think it was this this guy Mike, and I don't know if it was his girlfriend at the time, went to my sister Christine and told her what I was doing, that I was, getting high and drinking too much. And so one day I got home like maybe 3 in the morning, and my parents were still waiting up for me. So I was 24. And they confronted me. And I just broke down and said, yeah, I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, luckily, one of my best friend, Joe Driscoll, was in a program, Renaissance, and he helped me. He got me in and got me some help. And the rest is just history. No, and then, I mean, it was a life changer, this place. They would beat you up and build you back up. You know what I mean? And that's basically what they did for me. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's valuable stuff for people to hear, that it's like it was all consuming of your life, and then you were able to, that like going into a program helped you, and you were able to work your way through it, and it's good that you, like you said, it's good that you found the program. It's good that you had a support system of people, that like you had your parents, you had and Christine, who was like looking out for you and being like, this is your friends, even like knowing that it's serious. Like it's good that, and it's great that you had like a support system behind you. Moving into my next kind of category, I just titled kind of like relationships. These are a little bit quicker. So like, what's a moment as a dad that you're proud of? Like, or not, it doesn't have to be like what you're most proud of, or like but like what like comes to mind, like a couple things that you're like key moments.
Watching you guys play soccer.
Mm-hmm.
I always had fun doing that, and seeing how much you guys loved it, enjoyed it, and when you did well. And then for you, when you became captain, as a sophomore, right?
Junior,
Or
yeah.
junior, okay. That was pretty cool. And you being the first McCormick of our side to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
Robbie being successful with his job.
Mm-hmm.
And just how I always brag about you guys wherever we are. I mean, we walked into work the other day at Petafix, and I told the guy about your running.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't matter. I can always brag about you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then being able to support you guys, and for mom to be able to stay home and raise you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big one. That's for her to, she raised you guys. I wasn't home a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And without her, I don't know what we would have done, because she built the McCormicks. You know what I mean? The house that was built on the Velasquez. With all she's done for us, and she still does everything for me, and we're probably a little too codependent on each other, but I'm just really proud of how you guys have turned out. And I mean, you're still growing, but when people say, how old are your kids or whatever, I was like, I don't have kids anymore. I got men. I got 2 men. And I can't believe you're going to graduate this year. It's so cool.
Me too, man.
So cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, also Mom will be the next guest probably. So spoiler alert too.
Excellent.
But yeah, I mean, it means a lot hearing that. It is, you're always you're like our number one fan. Like, you have like 400 stickers of my podcast. You're handing them out. It feels great to like be supported and be like, that you care. It's great, because I know a lot of people, like, their parents just don't really care or won't support them if they're trying something new. Like, I'm trying this podcast. I'm just like, I tried running. Like, it's like being able to have the support. So it definitely means a lot.
I love to see that you're trying and you're doing. I mean, a lot of people give up. You haven't given up.
Yep. Going strong. This is on the 13th episode.
Sorry.
And then this one, I don't know. I mean, this one you don't have to go super deep into, but how has being the oldest sibling impacted your life? Because I don't know what the gap is, but there's a decent gap.
Yeah, so pretty sure I got them right. I'm 4 years older than Christine, 6 years older than Trish, and 14 years older than Brian. Brian's always the easiest one to remember for some reason.
That's a big gap.
Yeah, that's a big gap. So that's why I'm able to remember that. I just try to be a good example. I probably could be closer to all of them, my siblings. And I actually have 5 more siblings from my mom's second marriage. I have a brother, Bob, who is much older than me. Gotcha, Bob. Tommy, Steve, Mary, John. So those are my step siblings. So we have a rather large family.
Yes, a lot of cousins.
The mix
for us
and the
on
max.
both sides.
That's another story, but I think that we might need a separate podcast just for that.
Yeah, the family tree there's a lot. Yeah, I mean, I think definitely, like, I feel like I've been interested in the concept. Like, I like learning like what sibling order people are, because it is like, it's a lot. Like, it impacts your life a lot. Like, it's like, sure, a lot of times like the oldest sibling kind of has to like take on like almost like feel like another parent in a way. Like, they are kind of like, when there's a next younger sibling, like, they become the priority, even when the older sibling is. It's not like it's like you kind of become like on that, like, almost like similar to the level of a parent, even when like you're 12. Like, it's like when you shouldn't be, but it's just like how it kind of tends to work. Like, it's like, right, you become like, okay, you're old enough, like, we need to focus more on another sibling.
I do have a feeling that I think we spoke about this earlier, not in the podcast, but today, that I feel like at times I was forgotten as the oldest, because they were like, he's fine, he'll take care of it.
Especially with that, like, that's a big gap between
so that's
siblings.
Like with the school stuff, I just feel like I was forgotten a bit. So being the oldest has its, perks. I get the bed at Uncle Brian's. That's a big one.
You're the patriarch. It's true.
Yeah, right.
This is a quicker one. What's your like if you were giving advice to all like young husbands and fathers, what would that be?
Get to your kids' games. There's nothing more exciting than watching your kids play sports. It's awesome. And an older gentleman who was married, like I think he was 45, 50 years. Always he told me the most important thing that he ever learned was yes, dear. Agree with your wife. Yeah, be there for your family and your kids. Make your goal in life to get home every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, living in the moment,
Yep.
living present.
Living la vida loca. There
Yes. What's a similarity you see between you and me, and a difference that you see between us?
Our height.
True.
See, I didn't know we were going to go so deep. Otherwise, I would have written
That's
a
why these
couple
are
more
these
things.
are surprise questions. I
Yeah.
can't let you be preparing.
A little bit. You're kind, loving, giving. I think we both have that. Similarities and differences. Oh, you're definitely more of a student than I am. I was. And I am so glad you have that part that you can buckle down and do work like you do. It's pretty incredible. And I'm glad you don't have the procrastination of us ADHDers,
Mm-hmm.
because I think you see a project and you go, you do it, you get it done. And that's the way to do it. So, and I'm proud of what you've done with school. It's so cool that you've survived. I mean, you did the 4 years. I mean, I'm sure you had your struggles, but
yeah, but I mean, it's been relatively smooth overall.
Right.
Like it's been great. I'm lucky that I have enjoyed school as much as I did,
right.
or as much as I have, with my last semester coming up. Let's see. If you could leave a piece of advice or wisdom for like future generations, I mean, I guess you kind of gave the advice to fathers and husbands, but just like a piece of advice or wisdom from just like the life that you've lived, what would that be?
For those who have their parents still, like somebody my age, if their parents were still around, my parents have been gone for a while, just to really appreciate the time you have with them. I was just going over something recently that my dad's been gone for 36 years this year, and it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
My mom is 17, going on 18 years this year. Oh, I think it's more. I'm sorry. It'll be 18 years this year, 19. And just, appreciate your parents.
True. Well, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Um,
Appreciate you.
then I have a last closing one, and then I have my like section of like questions from other people, which is pretty quick.
Okay.
But like this is a I guess a big one. Like how would you want to be remembered? Like what do you want your legacy to be? Like what do you want from that?
Yeah, that I was a hard worker. I was giving, loving, gave a lot of service, generous.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way that I would describe you to other people. So I think you're
Cool.
doing good. Let's see. Okay, then here's my questions from other people. My first one, a classic at this point. If you could have 5 people, dead or alive, that you would bring to dinner. and I'll make you. You can't choose us in the house, like because you're seeing us every night.
See you every night.
Yeah.
Well, of course, my parents. So is that 2 or 1? That would be
That's
2.
2.
All right. John Wayne was one of my favorite actors, and my dad's growing up. Let's see. Bruno Mars. You gotta have Bruno.
That's a good one.
Have some music and some dancing. Number 5. I mean, you can go classic. You could say Jesus.
That's a classic.
You know.
I feel like he would have something to say.
Yeah. And then him and Bruno could hang out.
Yep.
You know.
That would be good.
I think that's good. I did 5.
I like it. I think I'm imagining now
nice classics.
your
Those are all
parents
classics.
talking to Bruno Mars, and I think that would be funny.
There you go.
I think he could do well in that. Okay, if you could only watch one movie or TV show for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I already do that. It could be Big Bang because I
Big
watch
Bang
it
Theory.
all the time. But we'll have to. How about we do 5?
5 shows.
No. I mean, it could be any of these 5 because I would do it.
Okay, all right.
Everybody Loves Raymond. We do it all the time. I know it's not one of your favorites, but Blazing Saddles, Blues Brothers, another good movie, and then one more. Let's go for one more. That's enough. 4.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's.
I already went over.
Yeah, I
so.
went for 1, but you're saying you could be any of these.
Any of those I could do because I could do the same books over and over, TV shows, movies. Your mother doesn't know how I do it, but that's just part of my
you
personality.
can just keep.
I can do it.
What's your rose and thorn of your carpentry career?
My rose would be getting enough credits to retire. I mean, if I would tell any person getting into their union career is just keep putting in the hours and you'll have a reward at the end. And the thorn, I didn't get hurt many times, but a couple times that I got hurt, nothing horrible. The thorn also could be the commute.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what I was expecting. That's what I was expecting.
You had to think for a second because the commute had its good times too. Because I got to listen to music or whatever.
Yeah.
And I have commuted from Virginia all the way up to Boston.
Ooh.
That's
not
all the
fun.
way out to the end of Long Island. And the furthest place I worked was I had to take a plane and I went to Minnesota.
Yep.
For a week.
And then so I guess of all like the offices that you went to, because you named some cool ones, like what was your favorite one that you went to or coolest? Like if you were like bragging about like the coolest place that you were.
I had forgotten the name of it. The one in Wilton. That couple of different ones. We'll go with the one is. It was called Tracy Locke. It was an advertising company, and they had the coolest desk. It was a little airplane. It was so cool. Where else? Just like working up high in a building and looking over the city. Right a couple of years after 9/11, I worked at American Express Towers, which was right across the street, and it looked over the whole. And I got to see that, and that was touching. You know what I mean? Just to see where those buildings were.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, like where I was working, I was able to just look at it, and it's crazy.
I know you didn't ask, but I'm going to talk just that 9/11 that day because I just thought about it. Is could be a rose for me too, because I was not in Manhattan that day.
Mm-hmm. And you were in
was
Manhattan
luckily
most
enough,
days.
right? I was lucky enough to be in the Bronx doing picket duty that day, which we were just actually handing out leaflets for an election, and I was just lucky enough not to have to be anywhere near that. One of our trucks was actually down near Ground Zero that day, and they picked up one of our clients and drove him out of the city.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's lucky. That's definitely a contender for that. And then I mean I know you. Feel like you mentioned that you worked at Rockstar, like at their building. Was
Yes.
that anything of note, or like?
It was basically just a building.
Yeah.
I mean, just an office. It was almost like the people worked there 24 hours a day, because it was like it was a mess.
That's what the
dirty,
industry is known for.
Yeah, because
so
they put in a lot of hours.
yeah.
We worked in a few different companies like that. I also worked at the New York Post, which was
That's a 24-hour.
Yeah.
That
So
thing's
the filth, it was just dirty.
yeah. And then so my final question, what's a goal that you have for 2025?
To get home at the end of the day.
I like it. That's
2025, like I said, I don't have a goal for the year. I guess to be more healthy, to lose more weight would be the best ones.
I like it. And then before I end, I want you to guess how long that we have been going for, because I don't know
I
if you've
have
been
my
checking your
watch
watch.
on. I didn't look though.
I had Robbie guess this, and he was pretty good. He was
close?
like within like 20 minutes.
75 minutes.
Wow. We're at 77 minutes.
Yes!
That
I win,
is
Robbie!
impressive.
I win!
Wow. Well, I think that's the perfect way to end, because that was very impressive that you guessed that well. But yeah, this has been the 13th episode with my dad, and I think it was a great success. We covered everything that I had noted down. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have anything else that you want to close with, any closing thoughts?
Can I sing? No, am I kidding?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, just for anybody out there who hasn't listened to the Dead Soon podcast, get on it.
Nice.
Merch is coming.
Yep. I like it. Well, thank you for listening. If you made it this far, then I appreciate it. Yeah, that's a wrap on the 13th episode.
Love you, man.
Love you too, man.